Hope I catch a fish!
Hey everyone, we're Sailing Sweet Ruca. I'm Kate, this is Curtis, and Roxy the dog. And we're here to sail around the world via Cape Horn and the Cape of Good Hope. We like to take the sea less traveled and are ready for some serious offshore sailing. So come along for the ride and click subscribe.
Trying to find it, all that I go through, my peace of mind, let it all go out the window, no smoke in my eyes, I can hear the wind chiming, it's always been you in the back of my mind. Early blue morning, when everything's cold, I see you running, covered in gold. There's nothing else that eases my soul. I let it all go out the window, no smoke in my eyes, I can hear the wind chiming, it's always been you in the back of my mind.
Good morning. We are back and headed in the right direction. Yesterday evening was pretty stormy, which was a lot of fun sailing. Don't get me wrong, we really enjoyed that. I would actually prefer to sail in weather like that the whole way than I would this light air, float around mess that we're in. But we're back, we're moving, we're going above 6 knots again. We've got a full main and a full jib, and we're heading 62 degrees, which is roughly in the direction of the Azores, so we're in good shape. Last night the ocean just completely glassed off. There was nothing, no air. The wind instruments were just flip-flopping back and forth. The only wind reading that we were getting was when the mast was going back and forth in the waves. That was generating apparent wind for us. So we decided just to let the sails slat and take a little bit of nap and wait for wind. There really wasn't a whole lot else to do. Because we were motoring for a little bit, we figured, well, if the wind is this light, let's motor a little bit, let's charge our batteries. And for some reason we clogged up a fuel filter. The first clogged fuel filter that we've had since we've owned the boat, which is really, really weird. I'm not sure why or what gas that we got or what diesel fuel that we got caused this. We're going to find out, because I don't think that it should have happened. But yeah, we're a little tired on day 4, but things are moving right along. We're happy to be here. I'm grateful for a nice, beautiful sunrise and some clear skies this morning, and a little bit of wind, which oddly is out of the south. No models have called for this one. We'll see. We had north winds yesterday at dusk. Who knows? Woo! We'll update you again soon. That's not good. Looks like we've got some water or some growies. What happened was our engine dropped in RPMs yesterday and wouldn't rev past about 2,000, which we think was a fuel starvation issue. So we came down here and we took a look at the filters, and immediately we saw gunk in the bottom of that forward filter. So we switched to the aft filter, and we haven't run the engine yet, but we might give it a go here and see what happens. What's our temperature?
I got 40.
All right. Check our exhaust. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Well, we've got a small problem. So we showed you that we had an issue with our fuel, or the fuel filters. We switched the fuel filter over But then upon starting the motor, the ignition key got stuck in the start position. Kate went ahead and pressed the stop button, but then the engine continued to turn. We either thought A, the engine's still in gear and getting pushed by the drive, or B, the starter motor is turning it. And it turned out that the starter motor was turning it because the key was stuck in the on position. So the bad news is that we fried the starter motor. Well, luckily we have a spare starter motor. It's an eBay version, not the official Yanmar, and I haven't test fit it, so I'm really hoping that it's going to fit and we can have an engine for the rest of the trip. If it doesn't fit, then we are down an engine for the rest of the way, and we are a true sailing boat with no engine. We'll see what happens here. Step into my office. All right, we've got our engine door open here. Starter bolts are a 17mm wrench. What I've already done is use some PB Blaster on these and let it sit for an hour or so, just in case. The last thing that we want to do here is round off the bolt heads or break a bolt, because they're actually very hard to get to bolts. You can't get a socket on them. This is the only thing that we can get on it right here. Okay, we've got them on there, and we're just going to tap them loose here. We got to be really careful because we've got this water hose and this that we could very easily just jam the wrench into. The PB Blaster, I think, has helped us along. That's now loose. We've got one more here on the bottom. Okay, that's loose. Oh yeah, finger tight here. Okay, I'm going to leave both of those bolts in just to hold the starter in place while I take off the starter wires. All right, so we've got our main power lead off, and we've got this off, and I'm going to ask lovely assistant Kate to get me a zip tie and some tape. Next thing we're going to do is I'm going to zip tie these some of these wires together and get them out of the way and secure them, because we are on a moving boat. Even though we do have the power shut off, I still don't want to have an accidental situation where I nick two wires that aren't supposed to be together or ground a power wire, because the last thing we want to do is create more problems than what we already have. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the nuts and bolts that have come off, and I'm going to put these back on where they came from. All right, I've returned with a socket wrench for the ground wire. He's a little bit easier like that. Okay, there's bolt number one. And if you look closely there, thank goodness, whoever put this in, there's some gray anti-seize on there. Whew. Thank you, whoever maintained this motor last. The Yanmar engineers couldn't have made this one more pain in the neck bolt to get out of here. This top bolt has got to come out a quarter turn at a time, which is a real pain in the wazoo. Okay. All right. Got our starter out of here. When you zoom in there, you can see some little sparklies, which is gear wear, but these gears aren't crushed, they're not smashed, they're not totally bent over or completely flattened. There's definitely some heat showing on here. But hopefully we just kind of fried the Bendix or whatnot in there. Let's take a look inside and see what our flywheel looks like. Good news! The gears on the flywheel and the gears on the starter don't look too badly damaged. What that means is that the starter is most likely rebuildable. We caught the problem in time. Yes, we smoked the starter motor, but I don't think we caused any long-term damage. So we're going to get our spare starter motor out and put him in there and see if he works. Our spare starter is in with the rest of our spare parts here in our garage. So we got to move some things out of the way. And I'm hoping, I think this is it, maybe?
Is that a water pump?
No, that's a water pump. Good eye, Kate. We're in business. Maybe. This is an eBay special that I got. It's supposed to be a remanufactured thing. It does not look like it is the same. That's not good. These are different starter motors. Let's take a look though. Let's take a look. The flanges look about the same size. Everything actually looks about the same in here.
Just the motor part is smaller.
And the clutch is different. So what this looks like, this looks more like a jet ski starter or starter motor that I'm used to. It has a little spring on a gear in here, and this slides out and engages with the flywheel as it slides up. But if I'm looking at the flanges here, that's not going to work. No, this goes up. Look at that. See? Here we go. So that does come out like that. And looking at these two, they're different designs. It's very possible that these pieces over time, because this engine is 20 years old, they get updated with new compatible part numbers that fit, but they're not exactly the exact same as the original equipment. All right, I've got a new plan. We're good to go. We're ready to install this guy, and hopefully we'll be motoring here again soon. Oh yeah. Like a glove. I think I figured out why the Yanmar engineers, as smart as they are, designed the new starter how they did. Check this out. I can reach my hand all the way back here and be able to get my fingers on the new one. I can also use a socket wrench and extension to get on there. So good on ya, Yanmar. You made this one right and made my life a whole lot easier putting this back on. Thank you. We're going to put a little bit of anti-seize on these threads just to make sure if we have to pull it out in the future, it'll come back out. Be careful with that gray stuff though, because it seems to always get everywhere. I don't know how it does it, but it gets on every single surface that you work on. All right. Kate, are you ready to do this?
Ready!
Okay.
Want to do a countdown or something?
Yeah. All right, in 3, 2, 1, go. Sounds good. Come on. We're working again.
We have the power!
Starter fired right up.
eBay saves the day again! Woo!
All right, we are up and running. A+ to our eBay starter motor. We got this just as a spare part, just in case we needed it, for about 70 bucks off of eBay. Really, really huge thank you to our patrons who really helped us out. When that old starter came out and was different than the new one, we really wanted to confirm that this was the correct starter that we were putting in before we did any more damage to the engine. So we had 3 of our patrons that we were contacting via satellite, email, and text, and those guys used some massive internet bandwidth to do some searching for us and help us figure this out. Turns out the old starter was superseded with this new one, and we were good to go. So thank you, Kyle, David, and Brian, for sorting that all out for us. You guys don't even know how much of a huge help that is, and we're so happy to have you guys sailing along with us. Cheers.
Still had a long way to go on our journey. It's only day 4, and we can't thank you enough. Mwah.
Kate, what are you doing up here?
Trying to sew this thing together. Our sock ripped on its takedown yesterday. This sock really helps us with double-handed sailing. It allows us to fly the spinnaker, which we like to do because we like to go fast, and get to where we need to go and avoid storm systems and yada yada yada. So I want to stitch up this sock here so that the spinnaker will come down nice and easy for us and not rip any further, so that we can feel confident using him and feel safe out here on the water.
Okay, cool, awesome. We have one more thing to do, Kate, and that is what started this whole thing. We wanted to test to see if our fuel filter issue was fixed, so it is now time to see if the engine is going to rev up and not be starved for fuel. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Throttle it up and forward and see what happens here.
Alright, forward.
Yep.
Keep going.
Yep. Keep going. Keep going.
That's all I got.
Alright, we're going to shut her down.
Okay.
Well, we fixed our starter motor, but it still seems like the engine is down a little bit on RPMs. So that means one of two things. The first thing that it likely is bad fuel. And we already see some elements of bad fuel in one of our fuel filters. We switched to the secondary, we're still getting low RPM. So we're gonna have to change the fuel filter that's on the engine as well, just in case any gunk got through to that. The second scenario could be that we have a turbo problem. There's really no reason why the turbo should go bad. Really looks like bad fuel. So we're going to try and tackle that first, clean our filters, and hopefully we're good to go here. Until then, we've got good wind, so we can keep on sailing. So I'm going to get back to work here down below and take apart the second on-engine fuel filter, the little gray guy, and fix him up. Let's go have fun.
While Curtis was working on changing out the fuel filter, I worked on sewing up the tear in our spinnaker sock. It was a little bit curved, but fortunately not too difficult to fix. And luckily, I had relatively good conditions and didn't stab myself with a needle too many times. Once the spinnaker was all stitched up and the new filter changed, we tested the RPMs on the engine once again.
I just gotta make sure that I stitch where the fabric is still strong, because you can see all these like stretched out parts.
Yeah, man, gold mine for YouTube. All kinds of for content, huh?
And we thought it was gonna be a dull passage.
Oh.
No, we didn't. We never thought that. Yeah, I'll take a gin and tonic on the rocks.
We might have to make that happen for sundowners later. Okay, go. We're gonna let him idle for a second. Good, right there. All right, what was that? Hey, what was our max RPM? We're fixed then, huh?
After a day of unexpected repairs and the concern of sailing via no motor for the majority of the trip, in which we expected a fair amount of light air, a wave of relief washed over us. And so for today, we closed the door on our engine woes of day 4.
Fun times with weather. We're looking at the 24 and 48 hour and 96 hour surface level analysis is from NOAA. We've got a possible tropical cyclone that may develop kind of up here this way from us. We're going to keep an eye on that, see what happens, and we may be able to see where we can use it for wind as well. Still too early to know. We'll kind of see what happens. Whoa, guys. We just woke up from a little nap and the breeze has picked up to above 18 knots at times, sometimes 17, 18 knots. And we're ripping along under full sail, under the moon at about 8 to 9 knots. Pretty awesome, right on the mark, taking us right where we need to be. And this is like super fun, reaching ripping speed. We're just checking the weather, making sure we're not missing anything, that this is gradient wind and not some big squall that we're getting sucked into. So we're checking things out a little bit better, but for right now we're going to take 9 to 10 knots in the right direction and just hammer it home. Thinking about possibly reefing the jib, maybe tucking one in the main because it is evening, but we'll see how this goes for a little bit and find out more in a second. All right, we just got some new weather reports in. Let's take a look here and see what they say. First thing you can see is that our radar screen, B&G updated the app and it now works really good. There's no more lag in it. The next thing that you can see is that this is the surface forecast from NOAA for 24 hours. And we see this low here, and then also they've got a little note that says possible tropical cyclone. We're right down here about where our mouse is. We're at 23 north, 56 west. So right ballpark, right around, right here. I'm gonna call us. So we're moving right along, and our wind is coming from about 140 degrees right now. So our wind is coming right along here, maybe about halfway. So this is actually perfect wind direction for this. So this forecast, I believe, is pretty close to accurate. What I am worried about is this front, this kind of double front that they have, that's right here. The surface forecast has this moving this way over the next 96 hours, which will bring these this way over the next 96 hours. And so I'm hoping that if we continue to run like this, we should stay well clear and be in very good shape. Guys at home, the plan is to just skim the backside of this storm.